everyone, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to Little Literary Love. I'm glad you all are with me today. Today's video is going to be another recommendations video and I'm very excited about it. And that is going to be like Menage throuple Rex. And if just kind of bear with me, I am getting a cold, so my nose is all like stuffy and it's just blah. I'm very annoyed by it, but it is what it is. But yes, so we're gonna be getting into some of my favorite like thruples. So these are going to be romances that don't just have like a couple pairing. There is going to be a loving type of relationship between three people. So most of my recommendations are going to be MMF, so that means there's two males and one female, and the males also have sexual, loving, intercourse, relationship, what have you, together. So most of them are going to be MMF, but I do have a couple FFM. I am on the hunt for some more. But yes, so this is one of like my favorite tropes. I really enjoy this a lot. I have a lot of recommendations for you. A couple of these authors are going to show up multiple times. I really like the way that they do their thruples. And so anyway, we're just gonna get right on into it. Starting with, you knew there had to be a Sierra Simone recommendation on this list, starting with new Camelot series. So if you don't know what the series is about, this is a Camelot retelling of like Lancelot and King Arthur and Guinevere, except it's modern day. We have Greer, who is being propositioned, and she ends up getting engaged to the President of the United States, but she also has had a prior sort of relationship, very quick but sort of still relationship, with his vice president. And then she also finds out that the president and the vice president also have a loving sexual relationship towards each other. So it's very, very messy. Lots of emotions are going on through here, because there's jealousy, there's lust, there's love, there's hate, lots of different layers to this story. This first book, it is a trilogy. This first book is from Greer's point of view only, and then after that you get the other points of view of these three characters. And like I said, it just delves deeper into the full grasp of this story and the layers of what is actually going on between all of these characters. And I just absolutely love it. This is one of my all-time favorite series. Probably the greatest reason why I fell in love with Sierra Simone, because her writing is just so good and emotional and beautiful, and I just love it, and I can't recommend this series enough. I love it so much, and it has one of my favorite thruples. So then we're going to Sugar Daddies by Jade West. This is actually one of my first Jade West stories. So this is about this girl, and she is kind of propositioned. She decides to become a sugar baby to kind of help her through her, I think she's in college if I'm remembering correctly. And these two men want to be her sugar daddy because they already are in a relationship together. They love each other, but they are both bisexual, and they are wanting to find a woman for the two of them. They want to be able to do stuff together with this woman. And then she also finds out later on that they're actually wanting to specifically be together with a woman at the same time so that they can make a baby, because they feel like that's the next step in their relationship, is to have children, and they are trying to find a woman that wants to do that with them. And it doesn't necessarily start out as they're seeking a relationship with this woman. Like, they're definitely like, it's the sugar daddies, you know, they're paying her, but then it turns into a relationship. They want to actually be with her. They want to be a throuple instead of a couple. And I really enjoyed this one. This is very steamy, but this is honestly one of my first really steamy reads that I've done, that I read. So, and I really enjoyed this one. So then we get to the Fenian Dynasty. So this starts off with this book, and then there's another one after this, and then she made like this whole like series with it. But the main throuple that I'm going to be talking about is in the first 2 books of this series. It actually started off originally with a novella, which is in here in the back of this book, and I believe that's true for if you get like the Kindle version now. I really liked reading the novella part first and then going to the rest of the story. You don't have to do that. I think you could totally just dive into the main story. It reads more as like a second chance kind of thing, because the little novella is how these 3 characters met. They met, this girl was just going out having fun, went to a club, and she meets these 2 men that she finds very attractive, and she goes to their hotel with them and they have sex together. But then she finds out that one of the guys that she was with was actually this prince that had been like on the run from some, I think in England maybe. I think it's actually like a made up country that Katie Robert did. Anyway, so he's a prince, and the other guy that she was with is his bodyguard. So the main crux of this, like the main actual novel, not the novella, is them trying to get her back because she had run away from them, and they want to pursue a actual like relationship with her, not just like hooking up with her. And she's kind of like wary about doing that. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, this is another MMF story. Royalty, which is another like trope that I really enjoy too, so I like that with this. And then of course you get lovely Katie Robert writing this story. Katie Robert's another author that's one of my favorites. She just writes such a good emotional story, but then her sex scenes are probably like the most detailed and most realistic, especially for having multiple people in a scene. They just feel so real, and it's just amazing how she's able to do that. So very much enjoy this one. She also has some more throuple romances. If I can pull it out real quick. She started this series, which I think she said she's now like scrapped and she's kind of done and doesn't know that she's going to be coming back to this series. But Abel, and she's got Broderick. I can't remember if she wrote one more, but these are all throuple romances. Some of her books in her Wicked Villains series are also throuple romances. Like Learn My Lesson, which is a spoof on the Hercules Disney movie. And let's see here, I think The Beast, that's another one, that's a Beauty and the Beast one. So those are also throuple romances. I think she's also got some throuple romances going on in her Dark Olympus series. That is her current series that she's writing. I just have only read the first one and I haven't gotten to any of those, but I am looking forward to them because I really enjoy Katie Robert. Then we have The Witch's Wolves by Ellie Mae McGregor. This is a novella. It's very short, it's very quick read. This is one of my only, no, correction. This is a fantasy paranormal romance. This is about a witch, and she is on the run, and she finds this cabin in the woods, and these 2, I think they're wolves, something like that, are living there and are in the relationship together, and they take care of her, and she becomes involved like in their lives and forms a relationship with them. And like I said, it's steamy, but not like super steamy, and it's very quick, it's very sweet, and I really enjoyed this one. Then we get to another very steamy wreck, and that is going to be Free Fall by Sarah Kate. This is the second book in the Wild Boys story. I would absolutely recommend reading the first one, Gravity. It's so good. I really would recommend reading that one just because it's phenomenal, but I don't think you necessarily have to if you're solely seeking to read a throuple romance. Because one of the guys in this one was in a love triangle in the first book, and he kind of lost that love triangle. So now this is him. There is this girl who's a ballerina. She has a lot of stuff going on in her life, and she's just kind of needing somewhere to go that to get out of her mind and just kind of like seek refuge of sorts. So he owns and lives on an island, so he lets her come there to just kind of let things be, to kind of relax, and the two of them are attracted to each other, so they decide to have some fun times together. But then there is a little bit of like a second chance per se thing going on in this book as well, because our main boy here on the cover had made this friend a while ago and introduced him to some things, like some sexual things, and now this guy is actually coming to the island too, and the three of them are going to be together, and then it turns into a throuple between the three of them, and it's really good. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to go grab myself a cough drop because all of this talking that I'm doing is very much irritating my throat. So I'm gonna try, I know it's kind of annoying when people like have stuff in their mouth when they're talking, but I'm gonna try to, I just need it. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on. Next up, we have another Sarah Kate book. This series has 100% made me a huge Sarah Kate fan. I think this series, the Salacious Players Club series, is probably some of her absolute best work that she has done, and I'm so excited that this series has like made so many people Sarah Kate fans, because I really liked her even before this series. So if you don't know what this series is about, it is about these four owners of this Salacious Players Club. It is a sex club. So this is the third book of the series. This is about one of the owners. I can't remember his name. He is married, but then his best friend is this guy who is like a contractor. He'll like build stuff for them and do renovations, that kind of thing for this group. And they are going out finding like other different like demonstrations that other sex clubs have to see what they want to potentially bring back to their club. And they watch this shibari, so like rope bondage kind of workshop, and his wife and his friend get volunteered to be like help perform for it, to like show off. And this guy, he realizes that he gets really turned on with seeing his best friend and his wife getting together. So he thinks he has I think it's called like cuckold, like it's like a kink. He thinks he has that, so he proposes that to these two people and wants them to be together sexually, and he wants to watch them, and because he thinks it's going to be fun for everybody and he's going to get really turned on it. And then they decide that they want to bring him in, and he starts to kind of realize that maybe he also has more than just friend feelings for his friend, and he has to kind of work through those things and decide if he wants to do that with it. But it does end up turning into a throuple, and I love it. This is actually one of my favorites of the series. It's so good, and you really need to read it. Okay, now we get to one of only my two recommendations for an FFM throuple relationship, and that is going to be Curious by Jess Savage. This is like a whole series, but all of these books are they're more like novella length, I would say. This is about this girl in high school, and she has this huge crush on this guy. Absolutely adores him, thinks he is the best guy around. The only problem is that he already has a girlfriend. So she's kind of ticked off by this, and she starts becoming obsessed with his girlfriend. And at first it starts off as wanting to be her so that she can be with him, but then slowly that obsession turns more into, oh, I really like her too. I think she's so beautiful. And it's very slow. It doesn't until we get to the end. But these three do kind of get together because the guy and his girlfriend start to notice how much she is noticing them, and they can kind of tell that she likes both of them. There is a lot of drama to this. It is very like high school-y kind of drama. So I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but it did also make for a really juicy, angsty story, and it kind of ends like you'll want to keep reading the other ones. And like I said, it's really quick. Each of these are pretty like more like novella length little books. It's very juicy and I really enjoyed it. Then we get to Pretty Obsessions by A.J. Merlin, which is one of my current obsessions right now. This is going to be, I believe this is actually going to be a trilogy. The third book is not out yet, so just bear in mind if you want to read this. But the first book starts off with this girl. She is in her last year of college, and she is needing to finish up like an arts like requirement for school, and so she signs up for this photography class. The professor is a hard ass, and she's not sure how she's going to make it through this class. And then there's his teaching assistant, who decides he kind of like buddies with her, becomes her friend, and decides he's going to help her. Meanwhile, she's kind of becoming attracted to both him and the professor, even though he is like very stoic and reserved kind of character. And then meanwhile, she has also decided that she is going to start camming, like being a cam girl, to see if she can try to start making a little bit of money on the side to help her through like college and whatnot. And through there, she meets these two people that keep messaging her and sending her things through the process of her camming. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's also then this serial killer around that has been killing people that look very similar to her roommate. So there's lots of different layers. This is a very dark romance, and then the second book of the series gets even darker. And I kind of think the second series as the heroine's like descent into the darkness, and I loved it. I really recommend going into this blind. Like what I've kind of told you, try not to find anything else about it, but just go off of based on that, because it's such a wild ride. It is very much more a like a romantic suspense kind of story, and it blew me away. I am obsessed with it, and I can't wait to read more from this author because it was so good. But it does turn into, the reason why it's on this list, it does turn into a throuple relationship. I won't tell you who that throuple is though. Then my other FFM romance recommendation is going to be Sherwood by Sierra Simone. This is a novella. This is a Robin Hood retelling where Robin Hood is actually female, and we have Marion, who the two of them love each other, and then we have this other guy that I can't remember his name, but he is actually, there's like spies and espionage like in with this story. So he is actually trying to find Robin because she stole secrets from the government, and he's trying to hunt her down to bring her in. But he also had a former relationship with her, so he's trying to use Marion as like bait to bring her in. And he also starts falling for Marion, just like Robin has fallen for Marion. And by the end of this, they form this little like throuple. And out of all of Sierra Simone's little like novellas, this one is probably one of my favorites. I really enjoyed this one. It was so good. How much of a story and emotion she was able to impact in this such a short little novella is just astounding to me, and it was so good. Then, of course, we get to another Sierra Simone Rex. She does a lot of throuples. That is going to be the Lionese trilogy, which is currently just this first novella and then the first book of the series. This is her current series that she is writing, but this is a Tristan and Isolde retelling. In either of these, we don't actually get to the throuple part of it. This one, we have Mark and Isolde, and they are getting into like an arranged marriage for him to gain power and for her father to gain power. That's basically all this is. But he owns a sex club, and he is a dominant, and he's like, if I am going to marry somebody, they're going to have to be a part of this lifestyle. So he, in this first book, is kind of showing her what it means to be submissive and what it means to be his submissive, even though they don't actually like love each other, and they're just going to kind of like fake it is what they decide. And then in this one, we have Tristan, who Mark hires as his bodyguard, and Tristan finds out that he is submissive and he really wants Mark to dominate him, and so they kind of start up like a sexual relationship, and Tristan quickly becomes obsessed with Mark, and then Mark tells him that he is getting married and wants him to go off and bring Isolde back home because she's at a family home in England or Ireland, one of those. And so he needs to bring her back, but then when he meets her, he also starts to fall for her. So he's in love with these two people that are going to be getting married together. So we don't actually get any throuple stuff happening. There's MM and then there's MF in here. We get stuff with Mark and Isolde in this one, but I know for sure that this is going to be turning into a throuple romance. So I'm putting it on this recommendation because y'all need to check this out. This was just phenomenal. It was so good. And then my last recommendation for you is going to be another MMF story. This is going to be Bitten and Bound by Amy Penza. This is actually what I am currently reading. This is a trilogy. I finished the first two books of this and I'm on the third one, but I've just been, I feel like it's such an underrated romance, so I wanted to put it on this recommendation for more people to check out. But this is a fantasy romance. This is about vampires. And so our heroine of the story, she lives in like the human realm, or the human part of this world, but she is half vampire. Her father was the king, and he decided to marry a vampire and make her, and then both of her parents died, and so her older brother is now the current king, and things are in jeopardy with the vampire kingdom, and so her brother decides to send her off to get married or become like a blood thrall to the vampire king. She's ticked off about this, but then he proposes, the king proposes that they get married, but the vampire king is also in a loving and sexual relationship with his head guard. So that kind of complicates things because the head guard does not like her and doesn't really want her around, and then there's also these other bad things that are happening. Where the vampires live is like total like night, so that they're able to live the way that they need to, but it's slowly shifting away, and it's shifting towards the human like settlement like world, and that's bad for them because then like none of their crops are gonna go if they don't have sunlight anymore. So it's just bad all around, and they're trying to figure out how they can stop this from happening, and are heroine of this story is in this like prophecy that somehow she is supposed to be the one that is going to save everyone. So I'm putting this on here because I was absolutely blown away with the world building and the magic system in the storyline. And I also really enjoyed the dynamics between these characters and like their setup with like their emotions and how they start to fall for each other. It was just, it's been so good so far. Like I said, I have not finished this. I am on the third one. But I really want more people to check this out because it's been so good so far. So that is going to be all my recommendations for this recommendations video. If you have more recommendations or I didn't mention something that you think I should have, please leave a comment down below because I'm always on the hunt for more throuple romances. It is one of my favorites. And yeah, so I really appreciate y'all's recommendations too. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.